Preston Mattingly. Thank you for taking the time. And you know what I kind of love with your journey? Not that you play baseball, and now that you're the general manager, but basketball, right? Is basketball like a true love for you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting path. I've always, like as a kid, basketball was probably my first love. I just happened to be better in baseball, probably like long-term future-wise, but huge passion for college basketball, professional basketball, and just honestly playing, Indiana kid, high school basketball, Indiana is massive. So it was a really good time.
Yeah. And then obviously the baseball route, you went and played, and then obviously went back to play basketball in that situation. I think for you and I, we might be able to relate a little bit on expectations, pressures. Do you ever feel that? I'm just always curious because the last names always, I'll say this way, they're not common. So when you hear a certain last name like a Mattingly or Ripken, they go, well, wait a minute. I feel like could there be a relation? How did you handle with that?
I try to just kind of be myself. I think as you know, I think people are going to put expectations on you, but I think just go out, do what you do, and have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. So talk to me about getting into the front office and about this whole process here, and kind of give a little bit of a lowdown on what are winter meetings like now, because I feel like it was something where people expect something to happen all the time, but maybe shed light on what it kind of entails on your end.
Yeah, I think getting into, you don't really know what to expect. Obviously, started out my baseball career with the San Diego Padres, and I'm obviously very thankful to AJ Preller and the group over there for taking a chance on me. And he always exposed me to a lot of things. So I remember being in the room and going through trade discussions or, minor league Rule 5 and Rule 5 picks. Yeah. So I think it was really exciting times when you start. I think as you get older and you go to a lot of these, you start to understand like what you can and can't do. And when you have to be certain places at certain times, not to walk through the lobby because you're probably going to get stopped for 10 and 20 minutes.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
left and right.
So I think you have to prioritize where you are at certain times.
Okay, that makes sense because I feel like all of a sudden, just like you walk by and someone waves their hand. So it's kind of crazy how that all works out, right? And I think then on this case, a lot of people are saying, well, nothing's getting done. But in this case, there's a lot probably getting done that people don't understand. You're dealing – maybe talk about how it's not just as simple as, oh, you have to sign the guy. You have to work through different opportunities, options, trades. I mean, for the Phillies, for your case, if you could just shed light on, like, what are you trying to navigate through here as you guys are trying to bolster here to 25?
I think people need to understand you're laying the foundation.
Yeah.
And whether that's conversations with agents, conversations with other teams, you're looking to improve your club like everybody here is. So I think you would hope you can get something done now, but I think honestly, usually it happens a week later, 10 days later. That conversation you had here may grow into something that ends up turning into a deal later down the road.
Do you feel, because we deal with a lot of news in Baltimore, the Orioles, the American League East, a lot of buzz, and it feels like because Soto went to the Mets, that the American League East and where the Orioles are, and even like the Yankees, the Red Sox feel like they got to be aggressive. The Blue Jays, Yankees, Orioles, do you feel with what the Mets just did with Juan Soto and even with the Braves trying to figure it out, does there ever feel like there's an added pressure or stress when you see other teams that you're going to be competing with for the division that you feel like you need to try to make a move, or how do you balance kind of the stress of all of that?
I don't think it's added pressure. I think, obviously the Philadelphia Phillies, we're looking to win the World Series.
Yeah, you are.
And you're trying to build a great roster. So I don't think you ever react to what other teams are doing. We know we have a good club. We're trying to add to that. We're trying to get better. I don't think you look at other teams and say, well, they added this player. We got to add somebody now. I think it's more just let's build the best team we possibly can.
Yeah. So in that case, though, you guys, how it's been built, it's a little bit different than Baltimore. You guys aren't afraid to go out there and say, hey, we like this guy. We're going to go get them. How do you find the balance of developing some guys that you really like, but also then trying to figure out a piece here that you think can push you over the edge?
Yeah, I think like sustainability, to be sustainable, you have to have, some young players come through your system.
Yeah.
I think player development is so important. Obviously, you mentioned Baltimore. They've done a really nice job, acquiring players in the draft and developing them. I think, we're looking to do the same here. So I think there's different ways to build your team, whether that's free agency, whether it's, through your own system, through its trades, internet, whatever it may be. I think so. It's a blend, right? Yeah. You're trying to add some young players every single year to keep the energy high, keep it fresh, and not get stagnant as a group.
Yeah. Well, then I want to switch on a different side. Maybe you can give me some understanding more about the international pool, how that kind of works and how that navigates, because it's different than free agency where you can go and say, hey, there's a certain dollar amount that you can go spend to an extent, but it doesn't have that type of ceiling. So a guy like Sasaki right now, can you explain to people that are going out there when teams are looking at trying to acquire a guy like that of how differently that is compared to, again, the free agent market here where you can, offer more to a player, at least financially?
Yeah, I think that's the guy you mentioned is a unique case. I think like a little bit to me, you're trying to sell your organization. It's a little bit like recruiting, right?
So it is. So it's more like recruiting for the international signing.
Oh, it's like we have some NIL money,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So,
fair enough. There it is. And you only have X amount. Okay. That's a good analogy.
You're trying to get players comfortable with your organization.
Yeah.
And I think you're trying to show them what you can do. You show interest when they're younger. You watch them, and you try and acquire those players. It's like you said, it's not just the dollars. I think you have to. There's some scouting obviously involved in that too.
Oh, for sure. One thing, at least being in the front office now, I like to ask. Hyder's been around forever. Had him just on. You learn something each year. For you going into this year, so far the last couple years, what are some things that you've learned as you now have gone up the ladder here and being able to be a part of an organization with all these aspirations? Is it, baseball, we love the phrase, oh, you got to learn to deal with failure, right? That's the cliche one with baseball, right? I wish I learned how to handle failure better, Preston, I'll be honest. But I think we all, but what about in this front office space? What is something that you think has been valuable that you've learned here?
I think patience, honestly.
Patience.
I think like everybody wants things to happen quickly. You want deals to come together. You want to be able to sign players quickly. But I think at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, I think the value of sitting back, gathering all the information, talking to your scouting groups, talking to your front office group, talking to the R&D group, and getting a total picture of maybe it's a player or a different trade situation. I think that's I probably learned the most is like patience when it comes to acquiring players, trading players, signing players. That's to me the
well. I think that's for every organization. The ones that show more patience or not impulse to make a move just to make a move tends to be in a better favor. So I'm interested to see how that's going to be. Now, one thing we have before we let you go, I ask everyone here. Obviously, I'm sure you had minor league stories, the old minor leagues, right? So I've told a couple here, and again, you can tell whatever variation you'd like. It's a different world than what it was in the minor leagues. Safe to say, a little bit nicer,
a lot different.
Yeah. So when Hyde's face, when we said that it was different, he goes, "Oh, it's way different." It felt like I turned a switch on.
Our players are in fully furnished apartments.
You don't say.
3 meals a day, getting paid.
That's nice.
It's a great time to be a minor league player.
So okay, give me one then on your rise up. What's one thing that stuck out to you? One of mine, I was in Asheville, North Carolina. Bus overheats there, no air conditioning either, and we had to pour the water we had left onto the engine so we could get back to Hagerstown.
Okay, so this is self-inflicted.
Perfect.
But
good one to end on.
So my first full season, played in Midland, Michigan, Great Lakes Loons, low A club with the Dodgers. My 2 roommates, we had a duplex, 3-3. My 2 roommates were Scott Van Slyke, Clayton Kershaw.
Okay.
And may back up. Parker Brooks and Clayton Kershaw. Scott Van Slyke, Josh Wall were next door. For the entire year, well, I stayed a lot longer than Clayton did, but the entire year we had a card table that we bought from Walmart and bean bags as our furniture and a blow-up mattress that we returned at the end of the year to Walmart.
Come a long way.
It's self-inflicted.
But you know what? But you said everything's furnished now. You get 3 meals a day. It sounds exactly what it was. Hey, it builds character, though. I'd like to say that helped you build up to where you are now. So mental toughness. I like it. Well, hey, Preston, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got to go do your thing, and I hope everything turns out well, and I hope to run into you in the future.
Yeah, really great being on here.
I appreciate it, Preston. Thank you.
Thank you.